So you're looking for an apartment at the moment. What's that process like?
It's a mixture. It's a mixture of fun because it's something new and exciting, and something new is always exciting. But when I look deep down inside, it's actually fearful as well.
Why?
Because I have to step out, be courageous, and step out of my comfort zone and do something different. And for the longest period of time, my support structure has been phenomenal. You know, I mean, I've got my mom and dad here. I had Sharice, I've got Jonathan, I've got Gogo, I've got Jay, I've got Papa D. And having to step out of that and move into a space on my own is in one breath exciting, but in another breath fearful because they're not going to be around me. And after a conversation with a friend just the other day, she was talking about the empty nest syndrome. And I think this made me think a lot deeper. Because for the longest period, I've also been a codependent. And being a codependent, you hollow on the inside and you filling yourself with the people around you. So as much as you're giving, you're receiving, but it's a lack of believing that you hold on your own. So I think the journey has been long. And it's time now to step out and to let go, to make room for new. And I've been doing it in baby steps. You know, the same way like how do you eat the elephant? Bite-sized chunks. So it's been baby steps. But there's a fear that keeps spurging. It keeps coming through, you know. So yes, I go and look at the apartments and they're all amazing spaces. Some are okay, some are not okay, you know, because I come from a space of quality and I love good things and I put a lot of effort into stuff. So I know I'm not going to find exactly what I have here. I'll have to build it to become that. But I'm also so scared to be by myself. And I'm trying to unpack what exactly is that fear. Because I am this bold woman and I step out. But no matter how much you step out, you absorb, you learn, you grow, it still comes to trip you up all the time. So,
do you think you experience a little bit more anxiety in stepping out in this particular way, more in your personal life than you would have in business? Because, I mean, there were lots of changes each and every year, something new that's unexpected that you kind of had to adapt to. How is this in your mind different to an adjustment, a life adjustment? Does it feel like it weights or impacts your life differently or heavier because it's your real life?
I think it's a mindset. I think it's more a mindset because I've always believed, and it's probably an intention I've put out, that I was great at business. And because I failed one of the biggest things in life, which was my marriage, it tended to leave me feeling that in my personal life, I was almost a failure. And yet in my business life, I just grew from strength to strength to strength. And I think it was because in the business space, I'm a lot more courageous. I'm not fearful of what anybody thinks, or I'm not attached to the outcome. So all the intentions that I always put out, or that I actually know, I use almost perfectly in a business role. But in my personal life, it's almost like a sense of lack. And I think because the pain that it was developed from was in a personal capacity.
Yes.
So as I'm getting a lot more conscious, I'm realizing this. The pennies are starting to drop. That certain formulas work. And if you apply that formula across the board, you're going to get the same result. But I also have to try to practice the self-love that I'm always sharing. Because I got to love myself. I got to accept where I am. I got to know, like I know, that everything is going to work out for the good of. And that's just currently where I'm at. So it's tough.
But this is a conversation that I think applies to a lot of people at the different stages that they are in their life. what is it about change that makes us so anxious? Because, I mean, to still be standing here today, you've been through a heck of a lot. So it means you've got it in you. Why do you think that even at this interval in your life, you still have, you know, a few reservations about whether you will thrive or not? When in the back of your mind, you know.
But I
But
think
what's that little
you know
bridge?
what? It's that negative. You know, I always talk about the Cherokee story with the two wolves, and which one do you feed the most? You know, that's the one that's going to win. So is it the positive side or the negative side? And I think where the self-doubt actually comes in is age could be one thing. It's the fear of getting older. You know, do I still have the inner strength? Do I still have all that sort of energy that I used to have when I was younger? Because when you're younger, sometimes it's not even mindfulness, it's survival that you're stepping out into. It's not a space of consciousness, because when I look back at my life, I so wanted to prove to the world and to the spaces where I believe the hurt came from that I am all of that in a bag of chips, and I am worthy. That was I really doing it for myself, or was I doing it for the acknowledgement? So you keep pushing forward. But as you get older and as you take the conscious walk and the choice, you know, to want to become a better version of yourself, you start strategizing a whole lot more. You start thinking a whole lot more. And sometimes instead of the just doing and the believing strongly, the self-doubt creeps in a little more, because you're analyzing everything that you do. You know, and it's not about that strategy. It's about going with that gut feel and just doing it. So I think that's got a lot to do with it. It's the growing in age. And I must share with you the dream I had about ageless and timeless. You know, and there's no time for anything. So it's like, cut out the fear. You know, if you really do research, we're all in our own lane. So don't try to be in somebody else's lane, and don't try to do it in a time frame that others have done it. We're all unique, you know, and things will happen when they're supposed to happen. So that gave me a little bit of encouragement to say that it's not about time and it's not about age, because I've seen young people develop overnight, and I've seen others walk their whole life thinking that they're never going to get anywhere, and at the end of it all, I mean, we can go back and we can talk about, like, what is the guy from KFC? I mean,
Colonel Sanders.
When did he develop that? I mean, it is much later in life. And then you can go back to young people like the Microsoft Office and others that developed so much younger and then died young as well. You know, weren't even around to see the fruits of what they created. So I think that's playing with me a little. And then having aged parents, and yet my parents are full of life and they play such an integral role in my life. But I watch them from day to day. I see a new line coming in. I see a step moving slower. I see different things. I see a little bit of forgetfulness. I see a bit of pain coming in from illness, and it trips me up. It really trips me up, because I look at others that are in the same age bracket as me, and I count my blessings, because not many people have a mom and a dad. And I hold on to the favor, you know, that God's blessed me to this point in my life, to be in my early 50s and still have both my parents. When I look at my parents' brothers and sisters, not all of them are around, you know, and I think, what makes me so special that I still have them? I mean, to have a phone ring and it says mom and it says dad, not many of my friends have that. So I have to find there's a fine line to say, don't go overboard and compromise myself for things that I don't agree with because I'm fearful of losing them, but still sharing love and being true to me, to say, yes, there's boundaries in life and I still got to maintain those, but still show the love and be grateful for today. So I think that's another thing that is bringing a little bit of, I don't know if it's fear, I don't know if it's anxiety, I don't know
Things
if it's
for you to consider or
thinking.
think about.
Yes, yeah, that's another thing.
You've mentioned to me in your speaking now that, you know, when you were younger, or the general consensus is when you were younger, you push hard for survival, not even really mindfulness, because you have all this to prove. Who do you think you are trying to prove yourself to in this stage of your life, if at all?
For me, right now, I don't think I'm trying to prove anything to anybody, and that's the difference. It's a mind shift. It's getting out of that daily routine of having to do things for survival. I have survived. I have accomplished. You know, not in everything. I mean, there's nobody perfect as far as I'm concerned, unless you're Jesus. You know, and we're learning every day. But I think you get to a point in your life where you look back and you have to sort of pat yourself on the shoulder and say, you know what, I've walked the walk, I've talked the talk. How do I actually enjoy my life now and be grateful for what I have, but still be so open to grow, to learn, and to be content. It's that fine balance that people talk about. So I think where I'm at right now, I'm not trying to prove anything to anybody. I'm really trying to get comfortable with who I am. I'm trying to let go of having to prove anything and saying that everything as it is just perfect for me at this point of my life.
So lots of people don't even know that they are in codependent engagements, if I can put it that way. Whether it's with your kids, your colleagues, your family members, your intimate partner, whatever it may be. How did you, first of all, did you identify it on your own? Did you have help, professional help, saying this thing is codependency? Did you pick it up from a resource you were reading or whatever? Because I think a lot of people are in denial, and if you can't acknowledge something, you can't address it.
Yes.
So how does codependency come up in your life, or when did it first come up in your life, and your relationship with it to this point?
Well, I'd like to think that I had to get outside help. But the only reason I got outside help was because I'd been developing myself over a period of time. And that's through the basic things, the social media, the interaction, the being in different groups, the reading, reading all the time and wanting to grow my own knowledge. And that's when I realized that I'm making the same mistake over and over.